First thing you have to realize is that you don't have to say, oh my God, we're little Morocco, we're way behind and we started 20 years behind everyone else. I'm sorry, that race finished in 2013. We're in a totally new race where everybody starts from the same starting point. Okay, so you started at the same line as the UK, you started at the same line as the US, you started at the same line as France. So the race is how many qualified data scientists and data engineers and can you produce and clean up in the world market. The reason the world changed was because 5 different things came together in the year 2013, and any one of these would have changed the world, but 5 of them coming together made a big disruption. The first thing that came together was virtualization, which is virtual machines, clouds, and bring your own device, which meant that it was the end of the PC era. Do you remember I told you this morning that I'm a post-PC person? The second thing that happened was advanced persistent threats and polymorphic malware. They get past the existing firewalls and virus detection, so you have to rethink your security completely. Big data and MapReduce, which we've been talking about all day. I'm sure you're bored to tears hearing about it. Well, you may hear about a little bit more about it because that's the ticket that will take you to being rich. Software-defined networks is the end of big companies like Alcatel, Ericsson, and other people, because suddenly you go away from really expensive Ericsson boxes to standard commodity hardware that you put any of the software suites from any of 15 different suppliers on, and suddenly that transforms your national network, so you can do all sorts of clever things to support your innovation community. And then there's quantum computing, which is a new science which is developing in the US, where instead of using electrons which move from one place to another to represent ones and zeros, you use the spin of electrons in atoms, and basically if it spins round that way it means it's a 1, if it spins round that way it means a 0. If you don't move electrons when you change these things, you don't generate any heat. So these things all coming together at the same time made 2013 what they call a watershed year. So we'll think about things that happened before 2013 and things that happened after 2013. Seeing as we're in 2015 now, we are just at the beginning of the race. What it does is it levels up the playing field. No longer are you way behind Silicon Valley and Silicon Fen and all sorts of places like that. You're in the same race. And there are enormous opportunities for people. Once you recognize these opportunities, suddenly the way to exploit them comes clear. You have lots of big companies out there, and they have people who've been trained in all these legacy applications and legacy technologies, and they have to retrain them. But they're as old as me, and how do you retrain somebody who's 62 to be on top of leading edge big data subjects? That's totally impossible that somebody with this amount of grey in the beard could possibly learn anything new, isn't it? The 28-year-olds that won't give me a job don't believe I can learn anything new. So they have got lots and lots of people, and they haven't a clue what to do with them. They have to keep maintaining all these ancient applications that Jamie was talking about this morning. And they can't get rid of these people, but they can't hire new people because they can't find them. Big companies need to deal with all these years of legacy applications. If you know how to transform these legacy applications into Spark applications, Hadoop applications, MapReduce applications. For God's sake, you can name your price. You know, name your price. I cost this much. If you want to hire me, pay me this much. Otherwise, I'll go and work for that guy down the road. That's name your price. There are millions of IT workers and managers whose knowledge has just become obsolete. Ewan isn't obsolete because he knows this IT fellow with a grey beard, who understands all this new technology, and he has to.
I don't understand.
He doesn't understand technology. He asked me.
And I keep my human sources up to date to cooperate with, so Frank cooperates with me.
Otherwise he'd send the VAT man round after me. Agile companies, agile countries and companies who can catch the wave. You know, from surfing, you catch the wave and it carries you along. If you can catch the wave, you have the opportunity to lead the field. If you're the leader in the field, you can name your price. That's how you get rich. And I've cocked that up, haven't I? Good. The change in demand is no longer simple programmers and app developers and people who live around Silicon Roundabout. We need those, but we also need data scientists, data engineers, cluster engineers, parallel processors, and people who understand functional programming. All of a sudden, do you see, it's a clean sheet of paper. You're in the race. You figure it out how to get ahead. Okay, what industries use these skills? Well, there's a big one over there. What's that? That's professional, scientific and technical services. That's the government. That's the universities. They hire all these things. What's this? This is IT, the IT sector. And this grey one here. Say again? Manufacturing, because you can use all these big data techniques to analyze your production line, to analyze your fault processes, to analyze your failure rates, to do predictive maintenance, de-dum. Lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff. Right, where's the skill? Who is driving the skill demand? Well, Cisco will drive, they will employ 5% of the people who graduate. IBM will hire 5.3%. Oracle will hire 3.6%. We had some representatives of Oracle here this morning. So there's lots and lots of big companies that are hiring people. But there's little companies who, now, how much are you going to earn? Well, if you're a junior graduate with 2 years experience starting in Europe, you can start on between 30 and 45,000 pounds, which is the same as a lawyer will start on in England. Okay? Translate that into dirham. The only snag is that the English won't give you a visa to get into or start earning that amount of money. So, huh? Yeah, I know, but we'll fix it for you. We'll fix it for you. If you're the head of big data in a company, you can earn £100,000 a year in Europe. Does that sound attractive? You only need to. 100,000 isn't enough for you. Oh, you'll have to get into some of the big banks then. So those are the kind of salaries that are being paid. So have I got people's attention? All the ones who've stayed so far are the ones who want to be millionaires. Well, that gives you an idea of the salary you'll start on. How did other people do it? Well, Ireland in the 1990s was known as the Celtic Tiger because it had the same kinds of growth rate as the Asian tigers had, the tiger economies of Korea, Malaysia and places like that, Singapore. Ireland was the same, but in 1985 they were very, very poor and their people were going overseas to work for other countries. They changed their outlook completely because a friend of mine organized a series of talks on the radio where he talked about, well, what is Ireland's position in the world? And they decided, well, hang on a minute, we're a poor relation of England and have been, even though we threw them out 50 years ago. They're still dominating us economically, but we're part of the European Union. So if we start looking in the opposite direction, we look to France, if we look to Spain, if we look elsewhere in Europe, suddenly we no longer need to worry about the English. So, it had a physical location, which was good, and it had a well-educated and a young skill base. 40% of the population of Morocco are under the age of 25, aren't they? Yeah? So suddenly you have starting to see the same advantages and the same thing I saw when I was in Tangier in February. I said to myself, good God, I'm seeing the same thing as I saw in Ireland. Morocco has the same geographical advantages as Ireland because it's connected to Europe, it's connected to Spain, it's connected into the Mediterranean, it's connected into the Atlantic, it's got a free trade agreement with the United States, it speaks Spanish so it can get into the South American market, and it's also connected down the west coast of Africa into Mauritania, Senegal, and Francophone Africa. And I thought to myself, my God, this is a gold mine. And then you look at Romania in the noughties. You know the noughties? Naughty, if you spell it differently, means it means haram. But noughties means the years after 2000. When they joined the European Union, they got all sorts of grants and things like that, and they built an indigenous IT community from virtually nothing, attracted in large companies, and so have suddenly become the third biggest IT supplier in Europe in 10 years. Morocco has got the same advantages as Romania, and so I said, my God, this is a gold mine. The last time I told anybody someplace was a gold mine was when I was sent to France by Vodafone. They put me on the plane and said, hey Frank, we've just bought 10% of SFR, go tell us what we've bought and what we need to do with it. And 3 months later I sent them back a message, said, hey guys, you've just bought 10% of a gold mine, buy more. So we turned the 100 million that they sent with me into 1,500 million in 8 years. Right, enough of my telling stories. Here are some books about the making of the Celtic Tiger. I brought one of them with me. It's in my bag out in the car. You can buy it on Amazon. It's a very readable story about how the Minister of Finance and the head of the Industrial Development Authority, between the two of them, came up with a strategy for commercialising Ireland. And then there are two other books which give a totally different point of view, but then that's Ireland. Key points, you need to invest some startup funds. So we heard yesterday that you don't have a venture capital industry here. That can be fixed. Once you get known about, the venture capitalists come in, and they don't fly Ryanair, they fly the first plane they can get here with. You need to invest in branding. I'll talk to you about branding a little bit later. What's the brand of Morocco? Moroccan brand. We'll get to that in a minute. You need to do some advertising. Morocco, young, vibrant, enthusiastic, fascinating, knowledgeable workforce with an enthusiasm and a will to succeed in the big data market. Ba-bum, it's easy enough to do. You need to do market research. Now, market research can be expensive, but you can also do it using your graduates and postgraduates to go and do a lot of the open source information gathering. There's an awful lot of it around. We can tell you how to do it the next time I'm down here, because I'm going to have to catch a train soon. You need a high-speed, high-quality telecommunications network. For God's sake, please, I can't come to a university where I can get a Wi-Fi signal, but it has no internet access. Oh my God, I cannot advertise that as a place. Please get internet access for your visitors when they come to do presentations. please. I can't do anything for you if you don't. You have lots and lots of optical fibre. You have it on the railway. You have it in the telco. You have it on the electricity network. Rationalise that. Put it together as one big network. I did it for the Russians when I rationalised Moscow for them. And you need high quality, comfortable and discreet hotels and restaurants. You need a hotel where the Wi-Fi works in the hotel rooms and not just in the lobby. Because that was the hotel, that's the hotel we had this time round. You need Wi-Fi in each of the hotel rooms. You put 2 or 3 along the corridor outside the hotel rooms, and that's fine.
Hotels are now offices for visiting.
Yeah. Market intelligence. This is open source intelligence. The governments who want to find big data people, they publish publications. The eSkills Council in the UK tells us how many. It's 40,000 that they want big data engineers per annum. The technology and market tracking. Competitor tracking. Who are the other countries who want to attract me and a few other people to come and set up a big data industry for them? You can do a cold calling campaign. You can ring up people. You can go and see people at embassies. I marched into the Irish embassy when I heard that the English were thinking of leaving the European Union. I said, well, I want a contingency plan. Can we do something? The English won't give the Moroccans any visas. Can we do something with visas for Moroccans to visit Ireland? Ba-bum. And I am pretty annoyed about the noises coming out of the English Parliament just at the moment. And then you talk to the recruitment and the headhunter agencies, because they will tell you who's looking for people. Branding and image creation. Morocco has a great brand in the US. You've got a free trade agreement for 10 years. You've got a lot of intellectual property and trademarks. Digital copyrights are covered. Bags and bags. The reports are Morocco is steadily progressing towards greater internal modernization. This is a wonderful message. Absolutely, I would invest on the basis of that. And then I read this, Morocco is a regional hub already. This is what they're saying. So you're already seen as a regional hub. All I need to do is put in the technology. And I have now found a professor who is going to lead the effort. And we are going to support her, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yep, of course. Good, good. You're strategically located on the Straits of Gibraltar, so you're looking towards the Atlantic, you're looking towards the Mediterranean, you're looking down into Africa. What more? And you're 7 hours flying time from New York and 2 hours to Paris. And it is a marvelous location. So
the bad guys are using that, so turn that round.
all right, we get to the bad guys are on the next slide. So they have this Atlantic bridge you're up to, so you're an associate of the European Union, so you get money out of them. You've got a free trade agreement with the Americans, so you can get money out of them. Negative branding. Well, as we noticed last night when we did the tour of the Casbah, somebody went, yeah, I know that smell. So the first thing that comes to mind is Mary Jane. You know Mary Jane? Marijuana? That's marijuana from the hippie trail in Marrakesh. That's the first thing that comes to mind as part of the brand for Morocco. We've got to turn that round into Morocco as a really go-ahead technology wunderkind. The Rif Kif is when they're talking about what's the best kind of hash to buy in Morocco, you've got a bit of an image problem. And then we have these hooligans with the guys with the AK-47s in the black uniforms who frighten the Americans and. Frightening Americans is a sort of everyday occurrence. But you've got to, you've got to overcome this impression. God, it's North Africa, it's not safe. Of course it is bloody safe, perfectly safe. The fighting's down that end of the Mediterranean. It's perfectly safe up here. Those are branding problems. Then you need to set up the pipeline, and this is the languages and technologies you need to teach. You need to teach Scala. You need to teach Python. You need to stamp out Java. You need to teach Spark design, cluster design, Spark Cloud, all the NoSQL databases, and analytics. If you teach that lot on a postgraduate certificate or on a one-year master's or even an accelerated master's or through a series of boot camps, well, we know how to do that. So, and then you need to set up the employment pipeline, because there's no point in producing graduates that you're going to send overseas. You need to establish companies who need to have markets, and they need to have agencies for selling their product. This is how you, so how do you start? Here we are. I've got to advertise the university where I'm doing a PhD. So come to the Essex Summer School, 24th to 28th of August this year. £200 attendance fee, and a cheap flight into Stansted and cheap accommodation in student residence. So 5 days of intensive training on all sorts of aspects of big data. Go to conferences. I'm going to the Make Data Work. It's the Strata Hadoop conference in New York on September 29th. And I will talk to the, what do you call him, the Fulbright guy about getting visas for anybody that wants to go to New York. It's £2,000, $3,000. To attend, or you can get yourself certified. Certification for Apache Spark is learn everything that's in the very basic book, Learning Spark, that I showed people this morning, and then take the exam online or in one of the certification centers. Databricks and O'Reilly are the people who are managing that scheme. Once we start getting that certification going, we can have it like Cisco, where we have gold partners, silver partners, bronze partners, and each of those employ a certain number of qualified people. And once you've done that, suddenly you can go global, and you can say, we have got this capability in-house, connect to us and tell us what you want out of it. It's as easy as that. Read the books, do the downloads, teach yourself. Don't wait for me to come and tell you. There's only one of me, there's only 28 hours a day, and I've got to sleep for at least 3 of those. So, so teach yourself. It's easy. I've deliberately shown you where to find the information. I haven't shown you how to do it for you. I don't spoon feed people. I expect them to stand on their own hind legs, on their own back legs, and do it for themselves, because that's how we trained our children how to do the first generation of computing with ZX Spectrum and BBC Micro and Learn Basic and write little programs. We can do the same. We give you a national cloud or an academic cloud, and we basically allow you to log on and write the programs and test them yourselves. If you go to O'Reilly, you will find there's a data science starter kit if you want to get the books, and it gives you a list of books that you should read. You can either read them on O'Reilly's site, or you can go and buy the paper version. And it takes you through statistics, machine learning, new ways to think about visualization, all the tools you need to get started. 6 books. There's a boot camp in that. Boot camps are appallingly bloody difficult, because from the time that you have breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning, you don't stop till 8 o'clock at night, and then they expect you to read 70 pages out out of a textbook before the next morning, and then they ask you questions about it with a bloody difficult exam at the end of the week. If you pass that, though, you are highly employable. Sign on to my daily update paper about big data stuff. It's an automatically generated daily paper about big data. You can just take out the subscription. It's free. Just Google Yottabyte stuff. There's another one on predictive analysis and networks, and what that does is it's free open source information that tells you who the customers are who are looking for people who know about predictive analytics and networks. And here is an article about the vast difference there is between the supply of qualified engineers and the demand. And in between, there's profit and employment for you. So this is all about talking, help us to set up a big data summer school in Morocco in the autumn. We might have a cluster stream, a Spark Basic stream, a Spark Analytics scheme. It would be me or somebody like me throwing information at you and knowledge at you to get you to learn it as fast as possible. If you've learned something before you come, so much the better. We get you certified and give you a nice certificate at the end of it that you can put in your CV, and we can say, here is a company in Morocco, and it's got this, it's got 3 of those and 2 of those and 15 of those available tomorrow. Sign up a contract. That's how you do it. We don't know where it'll be or how it'll be funded just yet, but I'm not one of these people that stands around asking permission to do something. If I have a good idea, I just get in the plane and do it. Ramp up. These are the phases of a ramp up for turning Morocco into a base of 10,000 big data engineers in 2 years. 10,000 big data engineers would generate a very substantial revenue stream, and some of those engineers would become millionaires. This young lady who said that she was ravie to see me here, she might be one of those millionaires. Oh, I did like that word. Nobody has called them, said they were ravie to see me for an awfully long time. So what we would do is train the trainers to train other teams around them, and setting up all these activities. But that's something that I can discuss with people from Morocco who want to know, who can decide how they want to do it. These are the typical people that would ask for people to supply their needs. We can put you in touch with their quality people, so you know their quality cycle, their product cycle, their development cycle, and integrate you in their teams. Here is the typical offering of an employment agency. Eurostaff, I like them because they actually gave me coffee and buns when I went to meet them. But they supply to some of the biggest banks, consultancies, Fortune 500 companies throughout all these places. So it does UK, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, France, throughout Europe. And they also have an office in Dallas in Texas. So there is a way that you get into all the very big markets. So, how am I doing for time? 5 minutes. Okay, we get there. Right, ramping up the numbers. Here's just a guess at how many numbers we would train. Here are the number of students we train, and this time scale is completely out of date. But we'll change it. We'll change it over the next few months, and we'll come up with something realistic as part of a national development plan. Now, this is, do you remember I said, I looked at Morocco and said to myself, my God, you've got the same advantages as Ireland. Can I say my God? Yes. Yeah, okay. Here are the cables that go down around the coast of Africa. Here's a cable that arrives at Tangier. There's another one that arrives at Tétouan. There are 2 cables which were planned for Casablanca. For God's sake, please land those cables. You need that bandwidth coming in. Those are the cables that go to America. There's no point in having 2 miserable cables up here. One going out into the Mediterranean and the other one going up to Europe. Do please get the Etisalat, who've just bought Maroc Telecom, to get their finger out. Can I say get their finger out? You know, get their finger out means hurry up and land these 2 planned cables at Casablanca, because I want to integrate that with these optical fiber networks which go between all the universities in Morocco. Now, if you could do that, then we are going places. Here are the cables which land in Morocco. The planned connections at Casablanca from Glow 1 and Main 1 can easily be implemented, because the Canary Islands, where all these British tourists go to go and get skin cancer lying on the beach, they have cables going down to the Canary Islands like you wouldn't believe. Other people, the extensive fiber networks, so the railway, the electricity company, the telco, all have optical fiber networks that just need to be rationalized. Here's just a real wet finger guess. If I had 10 million, this is what I could do, but I don't really need 10 million. I can make do with a mil or 2. If I know where I'm going, so I just need to get people interested in the financial community in London and New York. Now, you not only have the indigenous people in Morocco that you can use as employees for Moroccan companies, but if you are interested, there are 4 million Syrian refugees in refugee camps, some of whom are highly trained engineers. I was absolutely astounded to find a young lady with 10 years experience as a control engineer in Iraq, employed by UNHCR, teaching basic computer driving license. I thought to myself, what a waste of skills. So if we can sort through the Syrian refugees, all 4 million of them in Lebanon, in Jordan, in Turkey, you can do the same as the Americans did with their Statue of Liberty Declaration. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, the wretched refuge of your teeming shores. If you can find people that you can turn into big data engineers, you can find 10,000 employable people that you can sell into Europe, America, you can make a lot of money out of it. And it works both ways. I was involved in setting up a university in Damascus with the Aga Khan's people. Unfortunately, that project's now on hold, but if we wanted to put a virtual Aga Khan University here in Morocco, there's all sorts of interesting ideas. Right, I will now sit down, shut up. Are there any questions? Fi Sawal.